Hello, and thanks for joining us on Encore. Coming up on today's show, a murder mystery, a philosophical inquiry, and a good laugh at France's literary establishment. Author Laurent Binet's crammed it all into his latest book, The Seventh Function of Language. After winning France's top prize for a debut novel, he's returned to the murky waters of historical fiction. Laurent is in the studio to tell us more. Laurent Binet, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Your latest book is full of real-life characters, totally invented episodes, and plenty of in-jokes, but there is a mystery to be solved at the heart of this book. It's something like a Sherlock Holmes investigation and an existential question. Can you tell us what is the seventh function of language?
Well, I guess I wanted to write again a kind of meta-novel, you know, so I wanted to write on the power of language. So I imagine a kind of almost magic function that if you master this function, you can convince anyone of anything in any circumstances, you know, which would mean the absolute power, you know.
And in 1980, when the book is set, that's also political power?
Yeah, sure, of course, because I mean, this was the starting point is the death of Roland Barthe, you know, the French critic, and he died at that time, right out of a lunch with François Mitterrand, which at that time was the candidate, well, the future president, you know. So it gave me genuinely political background I used for my plot.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, Roland Barthe is at the centre of this book, and he's a semiologist, a writer, very well known for his novels, who did die in 1980. Now, his reading of society went on to become very important academically and sociologically. We asked some of your literary fans at the bookshop Shakespeare and Company what they think of Roland Barthe, semiotics, and the power of language.
Who's Roland Barthe?
What I like about Barthe is that he spoke very simply in a simple language, really, expressing complex thought.
Semiology is the study of meanings, of what a word means, of what it means on its own or in a certain context, like surrounded by other words, like a sentence. Language is sort of free in a way because it evolves, and we're still running behind it, looking at it, yeah, observing it, and living in it. It's a crazy story.
So we can see that he is and isn't well known among international readers, but what drew you to him as a character?
I was interested mostly, I love Roland Barthe as a critic, but as a character I was interested by his death, because he died in a stupid car accident. He was crashed by a laundry van, you know, out of that lunch with Mitterrand, and he had no IDs, no keys on him, so there were some element of mystery with that death. You know, it was an accident, I have no doubt of that, but I thought at the same time he's a semiotician, a semiologist, you know, and I thought that semiology, that semiotic, as the science of sign, it's like to help you to read the world, not only the words, as that guy said, but the world, as you read a text. It is the perfect science for investigation. So I thought, why not to make a detective story after the death of Roland Barthe, thinking that it is not an accident, but a murder. You know?
Okay. Now, Barthe is very famous for a collection of essays called the Mythologies, published at the end of the 50s and updated. It dissects cultural phenomena in a very perceptive, sociological and very funny way. What do you think the mythologie would include today if they were written?
Well, of course, the smartphone, the Twitter, the Trump. Yes.
What do you think Barthe would make of this era?
Well, if I was, I would tell you if I was as clever, as intelligent as Barthe, but I can only, he would write beautiful pages about fake news, you know, what is truth, what is fake, you know, and about, I'm sure he would make connection between Twitter, for instance, and aphorism of La Rochefoucauld, you know, or those moralists of the French moralists of the 18th century. You know, I'm sure he wouldn't despise Twitter. He would be more ambiguous with that. He would criticize, but not only.
I'm sure he'd have a very funny Twitter account. Now, I'd just like to read a line from the book that stayed with me, if I can. It starts by saying, "So that's how it is. Writing is dead. The place for text is in textbooks. Truth lives only in the metamorphoses of speeches, and only the spoken word is sensitive enough to capture thought's eternal developing flow in real time." Now, there you're making a strong case for the spoken word, not the written word. It's a controversial thing for a novelist to write. Do you believe that?
No, well, not really, actually. I mean, this is a character who says it in a battle opposite to another character who defends the opposite opinion. But I think there is, it's a kind of fantasy for me. I mean, life chose for me, I guess, that I specialized with the written language, you know. And so I think it's a bit a kind of regret that I wish I was the king of spoken language, you know, the king of debate, the king of discussion, you know. So I think one of the ideas of the book was that fascination for the how challenging it is, like to say the right thing at the right time, you know. Meaning, like when you write, you have all the time you want to write the right words, you know. But what impressed me with the spoken language is that you have to think fast. I think, you know, I mean, you don't need the seven function of language to be the king of spoken language. You just need, of course, big culture to know many things about many topics, but also you need a good processor, you know, meaning like you need to think fast, you know. And if you have those two elements, good culture and fast thinking, then you can be the king, I think.
Okay. Well, your previous book, HHhH, or HHhH, was a huge success here in France. It won the Goncourt Prize for the best first novel, and it was loosely a fictional account of a real historical event, the assassination attempt of Nazi leader Reinhard Heydrich. Now, your rendering of that story was made into a film starring Jason Clarke and Rosamund Pike. Let's take a look.
Not one high-ranking Nazi official has ever been assassinated. I want to know every move he makes. Heydrich must die.
We stand at a unique moment in history. All hostiles to the nation will be eliminated.
You're not only putting your own lives in danger, but the lives of everyone.
Promise me you'll get out alive.
All resistance organizations will be destroyed without mercy. Enough!
This is a suicide mission. Are you sure you're ready for this?
So when you're dealing with real characters, real life situations like the one in the Second World War that you wrote about there, how much poetic license do you allow yourself?
Well, you just don't have to confuse poetic license and fiction license. I mean, poetic doesn't have to be fiction, you know, so you have to be very accurate and very poetic at the same time, you know. I mean, lyricism is one thing, fiction is another thing, you know. Like, literature doesn't mean always fiction. So you can make literature or try to make literature and without fiction. So this is what I tried, you know. And I discovered that you American and English people, English speakers, you have a name for that, non-fiction novel. I'm okay with that. I mean, like, HHhH is a kind of non-fiction novel.
And did you feel a responsibility towards the historical facts there?
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, more than that, I felt really like neurotic. Like I was searching for that goal, which is almost unreachable, you know, that precisely the historical truth, you know. But still, I mean, that was my goal, the target I had, you know, like I wanted to avoid the most I could, to avoid historical mistakes, you know, because, well, I mean, that I didn't want to use that story like for just like a script, you know, as an homage of those guys, the resistance. I wanted to be accurate and to speak about them, not about characters inspired by them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, as well as writing novels, you also went behind the scenes during François Hollande's presidential campaign, and you wrote a book about it. I read that you found the world of politics quite comical. What is naturally funny about politics?
Well, I mean, it is a game, and in a way, this is like I wrote in it's the same as I described in the seventh function like that Logos Club. You know, this is the game, and the winner is the one who is the more who masters the language. Actually, I mean, like the one who convinced the biggest number of people. You know, so like it's like a big game, and what is also a bit cynical. It's like they feel it as a game. You know that François Hollande, you know, everybody believed him, and we were. I mean, I feel ashamed now. I mean, many of us feel ashamed when he says, "My enemy, it's the finance." You know, like and it was just a big lie, and but it was the game. You know, like he had to say that at that time to be elected. You know, and now it's another. You know, the last winner, Macron, he didn't have to say that. He's a banker, and still we voted for him. So there is something comical with that, and sad at the same time, of course.
Okay, yeah, it's a funny time for politics, indeed.
Yeah, sure.
Now, finally, we asked you to recommend something on your cultural radar, your cultural highlight. You've told us about an exhibition that's taking place at the moment here in Paris.
Yes, in the north of Paris, at La Grande Halle de la Villette. It's called Imagine Van Gogh, and it's a beautiful work, you know, big, huge space with huge screen where they project, they show fragments or entire paintings of Van Gogh with beautiful music, you know, and you can walk among all those screens and you feel deep inside the paintings, and it is beautiful, you know. And I went there with my two old son, and I loved it, and he loved it too.
Okay, an immersive experience. Thank you very much. We'll leave you with a taste of what it's like to enter into one of Van Gogh's paintings. Thank you, Laurent Binet, for joining us today, and thank you at home for watching. Do remember to check out our website, and you can also keep up with Encore on social media. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.